Welcome, folks, to today's show. How y'all doing today? It's SIL here with a brand new weekly show coming at you. Stay strong, Ukraine. Stay strong. We're holding out for you. Y'all checking the airplane tickets? Trying to get out there? I'm trying to get out there. I mean, if there's ever a way to get in the cockpit of a tank without being a true tanker and get in the cockpit of a copter without being a true pilot, it's a good time. So head on out. Support what's right. Yeah. Anyway, how y'all doing? Welcome to today's weekly show. Just want to touch on a couple things today. Mostly because I had the ideas loop through from people. So I figured now's as good a time as any to bring them on up. Mostly, what I wanted to discuss actually was this, as so it shows up on there, was conglomerations. I mean, lots of times we get in the core, or if you've built your own planes, maybe you built them. I mean, even if you're your own person, you like to think of yourself as if you're manufacturing, if you're designing and manufacturing these things, you give yourself more. They're a part of you. It's your time, it's your effort, it's material. All the things like a true company would need to construct or build anything really from the ground up. So I always like to consider ourselves companies, corporations, if you will, when you're a member of IVPAC. It's a minor thing really, but I do, like, we always requested it of our members to get in. It's like, what were you? When did you first start building planes? Well, let's call it a company. When was your company first formed, and so on and so forth. So we had that, and then we had sometimes your ideas would mesh with other people's ideas. Sometimes you guys saw the same thing, whatever, and then sometimes you would go all out and like figure out a way to, oh man, I should have done it this way. Yeah, I should. I know why I'm doing it this way. Sometimes you come up with an idea you want to share with other people. Like, I mean, you have this online capability, of course, but this really isn't like a true, like they call in games a couch co-op. You're not with your teammates, with your friends or whatever doing this and then like, hey, what if we did the fold this way? What if we change this layout? What if we take this? What if we cut that? So on and so forth. So the idea behind that is, if you have the company, your other person has the company. If you've really taken it that far, if you've got a design team, maybe you want to take it a step further and form another one if you guys have the same idea. And you might have seen me and NASA's do that online before. KIA's been online. We haven't done it integral, but we've had a 4-step process where there's, God, why is it always different per camera angle? I'm going to get with NASA's on that, change my stuff up. Anyway, basically what it is like, if you could agree to your design with somebody else, and the parties are endless, really, but you got to keep it in mind that you're going to have a limit on the parties involved if you're going to be doing folding on any one given plane. What you want to think about is, could you get together with said person and come up with a design together? The end result being the same thing. You're just trying to build a plane, but the possibilities could be a great many things. As one person thinks of something the other person would not have thought of, and vice versa. Again, you may have seen me and NASA's do this before on the show, and we have a few planes of our own, being probably the most prolific one I can think of, SMA. We don't have a new one for the new conglomerate, but right now SMA is the one we do all of our togetherness on. But basically, and you've seen it, what you usually do is you have something on hand, a coin, typically a coin, but anything, pick heads or tails, somebody goes first. And you take the first fold, you take the first design idea, and that could be like what type of paper it is, which way you're folding it, profile or landscape, and then go from there. You could make that a turn, as we call it, or you can make that just the start. What are we grabbing? Grabbing a standard sheet. Okay, A4, let's go. We folding it profile, or we folding it landscape? Landscape, okay, let's go. And then the first fold, and there you go. that's usually what we constitute as like a together aircraft. And then again, like once you flip the coin, it figures out who goes first or the closest person. Thinking number 1 to number 10. Pick highly, pick low, who goes first. You know what I mean? So anyway, you decide that, and then you take turn-based, literally turn-based folds or ideas and put them into the plane. If you fold it, any fold constitutes a turn, and that's got to be agreed upon. You could get your gentleman's agreement at the beginning of it, of course, but like it's agreed upon beforehand, and only you or that party involved, the parties involved, know what they are. If it is simply at one fold, it's done, or if you make an addendum to each individual, like warn the parties involved that like, okay, this is going to be a two-parter, and let them know so that something in particular gets done, some idea gets out. And it's highly, of course, recommended too that once you finish the aircraft, or during the process of the aircraft, like you may have also seen me doing, you have to write down each step. That's crucial because not only is it sometimes hard to figure out which step you took if you just break down the example that you have, but it also might come in handy because you don't know how the fold came about with the idea. It's not a matter of you break it down and it's like if there's a cut, or God forbid, like if there's one design where we actually oh my God, I can't believe we did this. We cut one entirely, built another plane, and then taped it together with another one. So, I mean, when it comes to that, you have to know which step came when and who did what. If you don't know that, you're not going to be able to figure out, well, basically anything. Seriously, you're not going to be able to figure out where the steps came from. You're not going to be able to figure out when you take the plane apart, like, well, damn, who did that? Did I do that? Especially if it's a long time ago. So it's not exactly you don't have to do it, but if it's recorded on video, I mean, it helps out. Written, step by step, pictures, step by step, be recorded. Something lets you know. It's not required, and I'm really kind of actually seriously just throwing the idea out there because if you ever attempted to do it with somebody that could build, we do it all the time because I just want to know. I want to know whose idea came from where. And it helps to know how the steps went through. It's crucial, actually, because if you go back through, like if I go back through the book, you'll have seen it sometimes in our page. I bring out the green book that says record. It's infamous. We know it. Anybody in the group knows it. And it's like, okay, these are all the SMA ones. And you go through and you see the step by step by step and how many steps it took. And the best diagram I could draw at the time of how the plane should look at the end of the fold. So... But if you might go through the steps again, and of course if you're doing it at one man, as opposed to like a 3, 4, 5 party plane that you might be going through, you realize, oh, that's how he came up with that. Oh, maybe I can change this. You know what I mean? It's visual. You'll have to get it through it to do it, but you'll understand when you see it. So, as I said, it's not exactly what you would call a required recommendation. It's just like I'm throwing that idea out there. Should you have an idea to make a combined plane with like a friend or friends, however many involved in your parties. And of course, if you're serious like that, if you create these companies that we call ourselves for designing and building these aircraft, you may want to call that something new because, especially if you plan on doing more than one together, where the conglomerates are made, you have a whole new company name that you're a part of, which is, again, always cool to do. It's fun. It's really fun. It broadens your ideas of what you can accomplish, and it makes you think outside the box because not only can you get to a certain level with any plane you design with another member or another party, they could throw you by whatever they do. You might be disappointed, but I don't think you should hold to that when you do it. I think it should be more like you should look at it as an opportunity. You don't know. I mean, like if you were building the same plane that you would be building with the other party involved in your conglomerate at that time, whichever plane that you're constructing, you've got a mental picture of, I know what I would do right now. I think I would fold this right here into a triangle and make a little wing fold, whatever. You know what you would do. But with another party involved, it's a loose cannon. They could take you on another extreme. And I'm usually the one that does that. Ask anybody who's been involved. I'm usually the one that does that. Because I can think way outside the box. But the point is, it keeps you on your toes. If you don't know where the next design is coming from, you have to be ready for anything. It's it's a bracket. It's a river with many mouths. It's sliding doors. You just don't know. From this point, it could branch off to any one of the possibilities. So, it's fun. You should give it a shot. At least give it a shot. See what you come up with. I mean, you may find out that you have a partner to work with that, like, you guys always come up with golden ideas. Or it may be hit or miss. But the thing is, chances are you'll come up with something that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. That's almost a guarantee. So, usually, you're not going to come up with a flying bus. Usually, you're not going to come up with whatever you construe of as your standard plane. Especially if you get scissors involved. Seriously. You get scissors involved, and chances are you're going to come up with something that you were like, well, I didn't think of that. Oh, man. Conglomerates are fun. Definitely a way to expand anybody's horizon. The biggest problem with them, at least that we've discovered in IVPAC, you wouldn't on your own. And it may get into even more serious business down the long run, I don't know, would be if the two of you build the plane together, you would also, it turns out to be crap, or it turns out to be freaking awesome. Now, that would be the one problem. If you come up with a world beater, if you come up with a record possible breaker, you know, and ultimately it's going to be just like, or like us with IVPAC members, like, hey, this is a good plane. Who's going to use it? That's the trick. Who's using it? I'm also assuming that, without involving legalese anyway, you would discuss the matter and came up with your gentleman's agreement beforehand to figure out who exactly is going to use the plane. That way, should you use the plane to, say, break a record, or just, in our terms, you know, like, I'm going to use it, and we highly, at least at this stage of the game, frown upon any member using the same plane as another member does, unless it's what we call exported. And you've also heard us use that term. We do exports. do. Child humor. Anyway, we do exports. The exporting thing is what we talk about when we say, like, we give the idea to somebody else and they run with it, or we give the idea, not really run with it, but like, you're going to borrow my plane for a little while because you got to get off your... I've done that many times. Phases have been exported highly amongst members. It's a popular plane. Deal with it. Anyway, you'll want to know before it gets to be something serious with your friend, your other party, your other partner involved. If like it's like, hey, my version's breaking records. I'm hoping you aren't like too petty to whatever you would call this. I deign to use the term petty, but I mean, if you're going to come up with an idea together, I would like to think that both of y'all's names would be on it. Or, I mean, whatever the case. Maybe somebody likes to stay out of the limelight. Maybe somebody was using it for something else and his didn't go as far. You know, whatever the case. Because everybody's folds are different. You also have to keep that in mind when you construct these planes. Because some people don't fold the exact same way. Or, I mean, you saw us do this before. What we do online here, any single one of us, of any of these channels that show you how to build a paper airplane, is showing you the design that they came up with, and they're sharing it. And obviously, for the most part, we're not dealing with members or people out there who really care to that extent. You know, like, we're coming up... I mean, obviously, there's the elite few of us who have broken records and gotten famous for it and stuff like that, but you're not... Obviously, it's also more than just that. It's more than being able to decide who's going to use the plane for that. I mean, what if one of your members... I'm not going to bring that up, but what if your member knows how to throw and the other member does not? You know, what if my javelin, K's apex, anything like that, if either one of us swap planes, and I mean literally just, okay, I'm giving you the design, you're giving me the design, doing a total swap. I can't no longer call that my plane. I'm not building it anymore. And still end up throwing it, and might end up throwing it completely different because you just have a different throwing style. You just don't throw it the same way. And trust me, this happens. You've probably seen it firsthand. If any one of you, Powerhouse, if they gave me one of their planes and I were to build it, or if they gave me one of their planes straight away, which would even be a better example. You got flying examples, your videos, yours look gold, and you throw it, it's like, wow, look at this thing. I'm going to give you this one. What do you think? And then I throw it, and it's crap. It happens. It sucks, but it happens because not only do you have different folding styles, but you have different throwing styles. And you don't really realize it until you like let somebody have it. And I've had the opportunity to give my planes out, my personal that I've built. I've flown with people, given them to them, and they've gotten different results. And they wonder how the hell it happens. It's like, I don't know. Are you throwing it? I mean, one of the things I think about, and when I give you the how to build on the phases, which is coming up, I'm probably going to do like a massive one. It's going to cover most of the phases because, frankly, it can, since they're all based off of each other. Yeah, it's a basic plane, but my thoughts were never into like, I'm a tweaker. I don't try to make a plane complicated right out the get-go. I try to make it complicated after it's been started. You might have noticed that about my planes. The thing about it is, though, is it's beyond that. It's something more. It's not. It's trying to be simple so others can do it. It's trying to be simple because in my mindset, as a member of IVPAC, as the founder of IVPAC, I think of it as like, if I go into combat with this plane, if there really is a paper combat, which can happen, it has happened, may happen again, foolish as it may be, but if you get into this paper combat, you may just find that you're like, well, I don't want this person to have this plane. Or I want to be able to build this plane as rapidly as I possibly can because I'm in combat. So a lot of my earlier designs, such as the phases, are simplified. And like, yes, I found planes that come close. Yes, I found planes that beat them. But I'm also like, well, am I willing to take that plane into combat? Am I willing to, you've heard us talk about this, am I willing to lose that plane potentially in combat or even in peacetime on the roof? You spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of money building it. These are the thoughts, even people that build on their own, you have to consider. You have to give it thought. You have to wonder, like, man, would I be ready? Would I want this person to have this plane? So, again, it's totally up to you how you do these, but these are the thoughts you probably should have. And again, in this day and age, and for us to be doing like exactly what I'm doing right here, for us to have these planes in front of you and just like, hey, so here's how you build this thing. Obviously, to a certain degree, we don't care. Quite frankly, I hope one of you guys takes, when I do it, one of you guys takes a javelin, throws it like a football, and you never see it again. You know, or rubber band launches it and you never see it again. I hope a phase glide so far, you're like, wow, you know, and like, I can't believe it was that simple. And hell, I'm almost guarantee you've built one, you just don't know it, but it's the thought that counts. And by that, I just mean you get to see it to believe it, and you just have to be ready. You just have to be ready. I don't think it comes to something. It's probably more than we're making it out to be, even, you know, but there are people out there. I'm just going to say that. There are people out there. You don't know everybody. You like to think that you do, but you don't. And some people are probably waiting to take advantage of something stupid like this. So some people, this might be their only claim to fame. Hell, that's why I make them combat ready. But however you want to do it, I would like to point out that's how you do the conglomerations in IVPAC. We like to form a little company as opposed to our base company that we all have, and then we go together and we turn base our aircraft. And fun times usually had by all. I mean, because basically these planes usually turn out pretty stupid. But every now and then you find a diamond in the rough, and yeah, you're like, I can, all right, you know what? I can even show you this. I can show you this. There are some diamonds in the rough, but there are also some planes that are just crap. Okay, like for example, this. Whoa. This is. I gotta cut this down a little bit so y'all can see a little bit better here. I'm prepping this right now in the background. This is a layout of, at the time, and actually to the current extent, most of SMA's aircraft. Sorry, bear with me. As usual, I'm doing something in the background. I shouldn't do this. This is an amalgamation of aircraft that SMA have built. You can see a wide variety of things that we have tried. There's a few more added to the stables, a couple of which you've actually been along with for the build. And you see, like, if you get a good look at some of these here, you can tell some of these are complex. The one up there that you notice in the top left, it looks like it's got some just goofy looking steps for anhedrals there, or winglets, as well as a tail in the middle of the plane. That is the Scarab. That is a 4-contractor aircraft. 4 people had, that's the one I was referring to. I said, like, we cut a plane, then built another one and taped it onto the said plane. That's that plane. There's 2 builds into that, and 4 people had ideas into it. And I may be the only one that has a flying copy of it still, and people try to forget it, and I can't. It's cool. I love the fact that 4 people had says in how that one was constructed. But my point on that, though, is, like, that's what you get. That's what you can get. And again, looking through the designs, you see, like, some of them, I mean, actually, just from looking at them sitting there, they all look pretty complex. And because, like, usually we find, and you may find when you do it, that sometimes you just try to one-up everybody. You try to, there's a little bit of one-upsmanship going on, like, oh, I got this idea. Or like, well, I never thought of that, so I've got it like this. Maybe I could try this. And you also have to know, one of the other things you want to know is you're going to want to concentrate on your, and know your limits. You're going to want to know, like, when to stop. It's going to be hard, but you're going to want to know when to stop. Yeah, good times. Some of them were pretty goofy, but a lot of them flew, and flew quite well, as a matter of fact. I will point that out there. A lot of them flew quite well. I don't know. Let's see here. This is one of the ones that was in that picture. We call it the Blade Wing in flight. You know they're good. They're going to be named. And a couple of ones we have named. Not very many. REAC is one of them. You saw that on a show a year and a half ago. REAC is one of them. This is Blade Wing. This is like one of our first efforts together as SMA. Me and NASA's. Blade Wing was pretty hot. And the other one, this one did not get named. But a very popular bird, and I believe I've shown it on here before. I'm not entirely sure. I can't use that picture. It's crap. This one is also in that shot. You may not have seen it. You may have, or whatever. But this one flew really good. And it is basically what you see there. It's basic. It's a cylindrical body that's literally just taped down to the bottom for a fuselage. And you see the plan form of it. There's, like, no folds. Obviously, I mean, no fold for, there's, like, no fuselage fold here. The rounded fuselage is taped on to a completely flat body, or flat wing, excuse me. And the picture doesn't do it justice because the sky was kind of monocolor, but yeah, it flew beautifully the few times that it did. It's a nice plane. They definitely vouch for that. So, find somebody. I mean, seriously, I think you're robbing yourself if you don't try to find somebody that you could work with just to see what you two could come up with. If you got a like-minded individual, hell, if you don't, somebody who's not even built one before, just like work with them and say, like, what would you do from here? I mean, because everybody's got an idea of what a paper plane should look like. And if you got somebody who knows what they're doing and then somebody who doesn't, you could come up with something truly remarkable, I think. Truly remarkable. You have to tweak it. You'll have to, you might have to play with it. You might have to, I mean, there's so many possibilities once you get it started. So, but the key is to that is, and another segue into the second part is finding the balance. You got to learn. You got to figure out where on the plane, where you two people are gonna get together on this, and know when to stop. Know your limits. Know when to stop. Know when it's too much. Know when it's too little. You can't just like fold it 3 times between you and like we're gonna stop right here. Chances are either A, it's been done before, or B, it's not going to be complete. So, something else to keep in mind is you don't want to do too little, but you don't want to do too much. The Scarab, we called it the Beetle at first, but the Scarab, I like to call it better because at least it sounds better than it looks, was a prime example of that. We did too much. We got too many people involved. Everybody wanted to make sure they had like 3, 4 turns. I think it turned out to be 5. And yeah, that's why that plane turned out the way it is. I do not have the instructions for it. That was the foolishly first ever done, and yeah, it was not. Well, I mean, with us. So I've built probably more conglomerate planes than anybody in the group of current IVPAC members. But even that was only like my 4th attempt, and then I got serious with SMA. So it's again, it's a fun time. Make sure you know your balance if you're going to get into that. It's a can of worms you would not expect. And just try it out. See if you can enjoy it. See if you come up with a good idea that you yourself would not figure out, and then once you get with that other person, you would have figured it out. And the balance is more than just figuring out where in the middle of your plane the balance is. Like if you take it here and like, oh, it's dipping. Where is the center of gravity on this plane? Oh, there it is. That's the balance point because it just tipped back. See, so that's what we're talking about when we're finding a balance. Is literally trying to find your balance and the plane's balance. Yeah, do it. Get your plane on somehow or another. Get your plane on, people. It's a little bit flexible, but I'll look into it anyway. So I built another ND22-1. This is the ND22-1. People are helping me out with it. I'm glad to see that. Anyway, guys, so that's probably the show for today. Like I said, finding your balance is more simply than finding the center of gravity or the balance of the plane. I mean, you do want to know this. Don't get me wrong. That's important. You really do. You want to keep track. But another part of it is in construction in general. When you're designing them, when you're constructing them, you're going to want to find your one point, your sweet spot, when to stop. So it gets deep. But people, that's the show. Glad you come out with us for our weekly. Look forward to all the rest of the shows. We are bringing more out. This is not the live show. This is just to keep you on your toes. But in the meantime, you guys out there, y'all stay safe. Ukraine stay strong. Better yourselves, better the designs.